Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. This is Kelsey here today with Kimberly Mark. She's the Director of Alliances and Marketing at Big Bang. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Kimberly, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Montreal born in Canada, and I work at Big Bang. Big Bang has been in operations for 8 years. I was lucky to join the company just 6 years ago, so that would be 2 years into operations. My background is mostly around marketing as it pertains to luxury branding, customer experience, and most recently in this endeavor has been all about technology and kind of taking my background in health and wellness and looking at the experience on a business side and taking it into the health and wellness of a business. And so that's really where I've aligned well with Big Bang.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great alignment, kind of pivoting from that health and wellness to tech. So tell me a little bit about Big Bang.
So Big Bang is a cloud consulting company. We work with companies all over the world to basically help them find operational improvements and scalability by having the proper digital transformation and system architecture to support their growth. We're very industry agnostic, brand agnostic. Basically, we look at a company and then we give them really honest advice. So like I tell our staff, the advice you give to your family.
I love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit about what that digital transformation looks like.
So digital transformation is this crazy buzzword that everybody talks about, but not a lot of actions are often taken around it. So the way that we look at it is what plan needs to occur for the company to overcome challenges or grow, and to break it down into actionable steps that are manageable, but also that actually have an impact, not just some creative strategy in a PowerPoint, but how can we make that a reality by looking at business processes, by looking at system architecture, and most importantly, and what people always forget, is how is information going to flow from one department and one system to another? And then also keeping in mind the foresight of growth. So if you invest in a new process or system today, you want to make sure that that's also going to serve the company into the future. You wouldn't want to make all these crazy customizations in a software to realize that the next year you're not even going to use that software anymore.
Yeah, totally. So it sounds like the action steps is really what separates Big Bang from its competition. Tell me a little bit more about how you're able to differentiate yourself.
So a lot of our competitors in terms of mid-market service in the field will generally carry one or two core products. And so essentially when they go out into the market, they're going to look for prospects and customers, and they're going to find their business challenges. And while every company is unique, we notice in the mid-market business that a lot of business challenges are similar. They have to do with scalability. They have to do with understanding your customer, understanding profitability in different sequences, managing a cash flow, or even managing multiple subsidiaries in different countries and dealing with different tax implications.
Yeah.
So where Big Bang is really different is that instead of finding a prospect and seeing if their situation fits the products we carry, we just continue to carry more products to serve our customers. So if all of a sudden we notice that there's a customer who's in a specific industry with a specific problem, we will actually research on their behalf, find the right solution for them, and then work with our partners to get them on that solution. So at the end of the day, we really do put the client's best interests at heart. And it may be complicated for us to be trained and have all the knowledge on all these products, but that's something that we do with a smile on our face. So I think the product diversity is really where we kind of can make a mark in the different against our competitors. But at the end of the day, what's really important is remembering that we're dealing with humans and that these people are just trying to get back to their jobs and add value to their own company. So to really take into account that we're there to solve a problem and not just service a particular product.
Absolutely. And talking a little bit about like accessibility too, I imagine.
Yeah, and kind of meeting the client where they are. So digital transformation for a very advanced company could be using BI and AI and going, the distance. But for a newer company, it could be getting off of Excel sheets. So It could be, really important to understand where is the client today and what is their mission and vision of their company so that you can understand where does technology fall in that. Is it a competitive advantage? Is it something that they just need for the backbone? Or can they really progress their company in an impressive way by leveraging the right technology stack?
Interesting. So tell me, how does Big Bang generate revenue then?
So we're time and material. It's very simple. We do offer a couple services, fixed bid, but the way that we work is we look at a situation, a project, we make a proposal, and then we actually look at what we think needs to be done. And we'll make a quote for our clients that's pretty accurate, that's based off of time and material. It's for two reasons that we do this. Number one, we want the client to be implicated in the work that we're doing, so they need to stay abreast and on top of it. But most importantly, we want to be flexible in our delivery approach. Things will pop up along the way that maybe weren't planned. And then the last reason that we do this is we don't want long-term service contracts. We don't want to lock our clients in. We want them to know that they can keep coming back, or if they want to try something else or do it internally, or they hire for somebody, but maybe that person leaves, that we're still going to be there for them. So all they have to do is pick up the phone and we'll be there.
And it sounds like one of the great parts of Big Bang is that you're setting, the customer up for success. So you're saying, yes, we're time and materials, but our goal is that you will graduate from us, essentially. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, and that you'll graduate and maybe use us for other things. So maybe you have a new endeavor or a new challenge, or maybe you need something really complicated that your team can't handle in terms of capacity or skill. But we don't want to create a dependency of our clients on Big Bang. We actually want them to be able to do their best work. And we're there for an intervention for a period of time, hopefully not too long, because again, that's a distraction from the core of what the company's doing. So we're kind of like a SWAT team. We come in, we do it as quickly as we can, and we get out. And then if you need us, we're just a phone call away.
I love that. I love that. That's a great analogy. So, kind of talking about those customers, is there a specific audience? Kind of is there a size, like a specific size of the company that you work to target for your customers, or the beginning process where they are in their growth as a company? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think an attitude is always what we're looking for. We've had really big customers who were super grounded and it worked really well. And then we've had some smaller customers who were super forward thinking, and that's worked really well. So I think whenever you have evolution of systems that is difficult, or you're having pain points and you can actually identify, if I were to solve this problem for our business, this would be the financial impact. And being able to make a business case for yourself and your team to get that approval, I think is one of the most important things, and we can help our clients with that. But I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is the right attitude. And I know that sounds generic, but it's similar when you hire staff, because you want to be able to work collaboratively with the client. At the end of the day, we are making huge decisions with them, and we want them to be implicated in that, because at the end of the project, they're the ones that have to live with the reality. So I often say that it has to do with a willingness to either transition to the cloud or to understand that technology can be a competitive advantage. When we look at specific verticals, we are very strong with companies and services, in manufacturing, in distribution, and recently we've really brushed up on e-commerce due to the requirement of our customers during the pandemic.
Oh, interesting. Talk to me more about how, the company has been able to scale itself, Big Bang, specifically through the pandemic and over the last few years, because you've been there, for several years now, so I'm sure you've been able to see the growth of the company.
Just like we tell our customers, you got to plan for the growth. We at Big Bang really believe in it. So we don't wait to have a project for a required skill set or capacity to hire. We hire in advance. And that's something I'll really credit to our CEO being very forward thinking in terms of our bench, our available resources at the company. We also train and provide a plethora of mentorship. And how we've grown has really been to live our brand promise and to practice what we preach. So you'll have a lot of system integrators and cloud consultants out there that will be doing their finances on Excel, or maybe managing their customers in a to-do list. But we've invested in ourselves. And so we do have a really strong technology stack. We also invest in the training of our staff. But I think fundamentally where we are strong is just in being transparent and kind of making sure that every employee knows our business plan, understands their impact, and then keeping them abreast of where we are in that plan by doing an annual calendar with very intense monthly pacing that includes a director's meeting, a company meeting. We have shared quarterly rocks. We have annual priorities. It's something that's really important for us as a growing company with a lot of staff that is looking to grow. We have to make sure that we provide them the information, but then also their own personal way to get there. So we have career paths for every staff member, biweekly coaching. I think the culture that we have at Big Bang has really allowed us to have this growth. And, I have to credit the other departments, from HR to staffing on the PS side. This is what keeps us going.
Yeah.
And then bottom line, in the pandemic, we were ready to go. Everyone else needed to get on to video conferencing and remote working tools. But all we needed to do was literally take our laptops home with us and maybe an extra screen. And we were as productive as we were at the office. So while everybody was out baking bread, I was at home working really hard and asking my friends to drop off a loaf. But we're not complaining. It was a good problem to be working. And we did do a daily throughout the pandemic. We leveled up our communication. We simplified our metrics to one key metric. We did a daily newsletter for everybody, and we made a commitment that nobody would lose their jobs as long as we hit our targets. And that if we did unfortunately have to lay anybody off, we would start with our senior people and then we would go down the list. And fundamentally, our CEO, he stayed calm. So while people were off firing people and freaking out, he said, you know what? We're global. We're going to be able to make it. Let's go with one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And our customers ended up needing our help. So where one country might have had an outburst or a bad month, a different country was needing more e-commerce and more support in terms of their internal communications. And so by being a little bit more opportunistic and remaining calm, we were able to make it through. And in fact, we had a significant growth during the pandemic. And I think we added about 70 or 80 people to our headcount in that since the pandemic started.
Wow. It sounds like you at Big Bang have really been able to hit your stride because you had the levels of communication, you had that strong leadership, being able to make those decisions, but also too, I think that people work better knowing that their jobs aren't on the line, so that they knew that they could continue to work without the fear of working in fear is not the way that you would want someone to operate.
Yeah, the job security, I think, was quite important for everybody, especially, we had employees that are in Paris and Mauritius and Canada, in the US. And I think certain geographies were going through a different version of the pandemic and at different times.
Yeah.
So we had to be really sensitive to the fact that not only were people worried about their future, there was other mental health considerations to come into play, also health stuff. I mean, I think the most of people did, unfortunately get sick, and we had to be a little bit more flexible. And what I think has been a really nice outcome from the pandemic, and we always had flexible working, was this notion that nobody shows up sick to work anymore. So
True.
you're not a hero by being sick and showing up. In fact, you're the hero by raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm not feeling well, so I'll take that meeting from home today. Or, I actually really need to take this afternoon off. I have this migraine that's exploding in my head. So I think people understanding that we are all human and bringing it down to that level. So whether it's a client or a partner or an employee, to kind of meet the person where they are, and to really be able to support them as they go through different changes in their life.
I loved, your point about, not being the hero, just showing up for work. I had another conversation recently talking about how, previously you might get credit just for showing up, but, working from home, you get credit for the quality of your work, and really your intent, behind the work as well. So talking about a little bit, going back to the manufacturing and the e-commerce, verticals that you're serving. Talk to me a little bit about what those solutions look like for the manufacturing and then the e-commerce sections.
Perfect. So they're different, right? So at the core, or at the base, we always tell clients, if you don't know where to start, you might as well start with your finances, because then you'll know what you can spend in other places. But we also say, start with where the pain is the worst. So we offer like free assessments online. There's tons of tools, and you can start to discover what are your pain points.
Mm-hmm.
So for manufacturing, it's really important to understand what is the client trying to achieve? What are they doing today? Are, they in a warehouse where everything is manual punch in, punch out cards? It could be as basic as, understanding the floor of the manufacturing facility and understanding how that impacts the gross margin of a client, or when to order new materials. And it can go as crazy as, you have a custom watchmaker and you need to know what piece was made in what country so that you can tell a really beautiful story to the client later that these 5 people worked on your watch.
Yeah.
So it can be anything. It could be robotics. It could be, the manufacturing of food products. It could be clothing, fashion. We saw a lot of fashion retailers come to us during the pandemic to say, help us organize our manufacturing, but then also on the website, can you help it so that we know what our inventory levels are? And so that goes to the distribution portion, which is in the supply chain.
Okay.
And then that plugs into kind of some front-facing client tools. So we have specialists that are, manufacturing specialists that know tons of little nitty-gritty details like, is it discrete? Is it this? Is it that? And, we have a very funny blog on our website, 3-part series that explains it as it relates to toilet paper, because we wrote it during the pandemic. Whereas if you look at an e-commerce, situation, you may be looking at what was the reason that my client came to my website, what converted them, and then after, because you want to push it back to marketing, but also finance, can we not stop serving them the ad of the product they purchased? I don't know if it's ever happened to you where you're being advertised something, you go and buy it, and then they keep advertising it to you, and you're like, why are you advertising? I bought it. You succeeded. You can stop there.
You did it.
In reality, the next ad should maybe be about writing a review or potentially upselling you to a multi-pack or a subscription service. So it really has to do with what the goals are of the company. If they come to me and say everything's working perfectly, I say, great, don't change it. But I don't think any company can honestly look at themselves and say everything is perfect.
Yeah, right. There's always room for growth, and I love that you offer different tools to be able to do that free analysis and see like where a company's may be at. I'm sure that's so helpful.
Yes, because as I mentioned before, it's all about the people that we're talking to. So whether we talk to a CFO, a CTO, a CEO, or even maybe a director of that department or a system administrator, it's very important that a problem be identified with a value so that when they go to their stakeholder team, whether it's a board of directors or the CEO of their company, and they want to get this budget approved, beyond just saying it's going to make my life better, understanding what that really is so that they can actually say, before Big Bang, this was how it was, and after Big Bang, this is how it was. And we really try to adapt to our clients. So we had a very technical client that I'm thinking of that said, we want to do a side-by-side implementation because we're technical. We said, great, so we'll reduce your hours by this amount. Or we had another client who said, I'm so busy, I don't have time. Well, then we can staff someone at their office, 4.5 days a week to help them with that overspill, but also to have those day-to-day coffee time talks with that person. So what I think is important in general in life, whether it's a personal partner or a work partner, is to find a partner that fits your needs and that is going to understand you and kind of adapt to you, the client, and not the other way around. But also to know that when they push you, it's for your best interest. So if I say to a client, don't skip that step, it's not because it's serving me best. It's because I know that if we skip that step, that later on there may be longer delays in other portions of that project. So really to find someone that you trust, but that is going to listen to you, but also push you to follow the best practice.
As the director of alliances and marketing, talk to me a little bit about your current marketing strategy and how you work to educate new potential customers and clients.
Right. So we really focus on meeting the clients where they are. So we offer different levels of information, whether it be to our current customer base or prospects or future employees even, or current employees. And so what's really important is to make some assets that are accessible, but then also to provide different assets that are very advanced and kind of show off our technical capabilities.
Yeah.
So we really do rely on a very solid lead gen strategy that has to do a lot with web. But I would say that it is true of almost any business. The number one way of us getting a new client or even partner is, and even staff member, is referral. So it's by doing good work with the people that we have in front of us and to live up to our brand promise. And I always tell them, you won't need me or our marketing department as we grow if we continue to always strive for excellence. And so we really do focus on customer retention. We really do focus on doing annual reviews with each customer, after every project, doing the closure, celebrating the wins, developing those relationships. Because as much as I can go to events or spend more budget on ads, it's never going to be as personal or as effective as a really good referral program. Plus, at the end of the day, you know, new clients always want references anyway. So it does skip a step if it comes from a reference. And then to say, like, events, we're starting to go back in person. We really miss them. Virtual events were not as interactive or fun for us. We were able to speak at some really good conferences, and that was a nice exception, those conferences. But I think for the most part, we weren't getting the same level of networking as being in person. We tried everything too. We did wine boxes and different things to send to prospects, but resounding, people just want to get back to having that drink in person or coffee. And I think good conversations and proper education is where we're really strong. And, you know, we always say to clients, if you're not sure, just test us. Give us something challenging that someone else has maybe not been able to do. And because we're time and material, we don't have to shoot for the stars the first time. We can just do something simple. And, you know, I think that's really where Big Bang differentiates. We do have, for anyone getting started, an online resource. It's also available printed, called the No BS Digital Transformation Workbook.
Love it.
And it's designed, you know, to give you an overview of your business without the headache.
Yeah.
And we know that it's overwhelming. So for us, it's really about simplifying and bringing it down to the reality of business operators. So getting out of this jargon talk and getting back to how can we grow? How can we support your scale? How can we streamline operations? How can we ensure that when your employees show up to work every day, that their job is meaningful and that they're actually making an impact at your organization?
Yeah. I love everything you've said really about like the accessibility, you know, the flexibility, the human approach that Big Bang has been able to take. I loved our conversation, Kimberly. It's been great having you on the show. Again, Kimberly Marks, the Director of Alliances and Marketing at Big Bang. This has been a great conversation again, talking about like digital transformation, kind of that as a buzzword, but breaking that down into what that looks like at Big Bang, and, you know, the architecture. I think this has been a really great conversation, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. And everybody get that out there and grow and empower yourselves to do it. You can do it.
I love it. You
so
can
much.
do it. Thank you.